White House trying to do to enable Mahmoud Abbas to be as effective as possible in that task?
Well, two things. One, the money I mentioned, which will be funneled through the finance minister, the very savvy finance minister the Palestinian Authority has, to pay directly for projects that will help build confidence in Gaza, hospitals, schools, roads, things that will enable the Abbas government to say, here's what we're delivering to you, and that's why peaceful processes are more beneficial to you, the Palestinian people, than siding with terrorists and endorsing or passively supporting terrorism through organizations like Hamas. Now, the second thing that the Bush administration is doing is essentially going along with the reality on the ground, which is that Abbas is trying to co-opt or at least incorporate Hamas into the political process in Gaza. Because while the United States still maintains that Hamas is a terrorist organization with some cause, obviously Abbas, his interests lie with bringing Hamas into the democratic process in the Palestinian territory. So while when asked, Bush will reiterate the United States position against Hamas, they're not criticizing Mahmoud Abbas for doing what he's doing.
Daoud Khattab, what's your sense of this goal of trying to bring Hamas, to pacify Hamas, if you will, by bringing it into the democratic process?
Well, it's a fabulous thing that's happened. I think by giving them a stake and giving them an opportunity to partake in the political process, I think it removes a lot of the anger and gives them some kind of a hope. I disagree that Hamas is using all this time of quiet to build rockets. Yes, there has been rockets attacked at the Israelis, and yes, unfortunately, the Israelis have still continued to assassinate leaders of the Palestinian militias, and I wish that this unilateralism on both sides ends, and we can have real ceasefire negotiations that are enforceable and checked, and a referee being involved. But by and large, I think Hamas being involved is a good thing, and I think the more we get them involved in the political process, the less it would be tempting for them to go back to doing the acts that were ruining the peace process.
Well, Amitai Etzioni, is it conceivable that you could end up with a peaceful Palestinian state if Hamas were not in some way brought into the process?
No, I'm all in favor. And I think any fair-minded person would be all in favor in them trading bullets for ballots and participating in the political process. Every morning when I say my prayers, that's first on my list. But that's not the first time in history this idea has been advanced. And as a sociologist, if you look at Ireland or at Algeria or Vietnam, we always had this idea that you take extremists and involve in the political process and they give up their guns. But in 9 out of 10 situations, they fight on both fronts, and they would be, from their viewpoint, unwise to do otherwise. So they have a political arm and they have a military arm, and they realize that you can have both. And in fact, I'm all in favor of building every hospital and childcare center in Gaza and every other place. And I mean this. It's a wonderful thing to do. I'm not sure that will make people who feel that they want to destroy Israel, that this is their houses, their soil. They want all of it, which they openly say, by the way, to their credit. They could lie and say.
If I may,
I'll close then. It's for them to give up the fight because they're participating as a party. I don't see, from their viewpoint, a rationale for doing that, and they don't.
Well, let me bring Daoud Khattab. You wanted to respond to that?
I think, we need to discuss this issue a bit further. I think if you're a Palestinian, you have a real problem. You used the 10 years of the Oslo process in the peaceful way, nothing happened. There was four years of very strong military violence, nothing happened. Now we've had 6 months of quiet and nothing's happening. The bottom line is there is a forced, illegal military occupation on Palestinian land. The whole world says it's wrong, it should stop. We've had 6 months of quiet, and Ariel Sharon still hasn't met with the Palestinians. There's no negotiations going on. If you're a Palestinian, there is a frustration about finding the best way out. All of us are trying to convince Hamas and others that the negotiations is the best way out. But we have to prove this statement with results. We have to see a change in the grounds. I mean, a few days ago I was in Ramallah. Had to wait an hour and a half at a checkpoint. Checkpoints have not improved. Prisoners had just been released now, just after Abbas met with Bush, as if it was a gift to give them. There's still 8,000 prisoners in the Israeli prisons. So things have really not changed, and it is very frustrating for Palestinians. So, let's put things in the context of the reality on the ground. And in that reality, President Bush has been saying, stop the settlements, and Ariel Sharon is putting his finger in his eye saying, no, we're going to still build settlements, still build the wall. So it's a bit frustrating for Palestinians, and just to say that Hamas is, has not put down their arms, it's true. I mean, I agree, but let's find a way out by either having a negotiations or having a ceasefire agreement. But doing things unilaterally will always bring unilateral results.
Well, Jay Carney, what's your sense on what the White House is hoping to do to make those changes on the ground?
Well, they're hoping and praying, first of all, that Ariel Sharon doesn't get knocked out of office or lose power before he can execute successfully the plan to withdraw from Gaza. This was a gift, in a way, from Sharon. His decision to pursue this course of action, despite the huge political risks for him, given his background and his core of support politically in Israel, because up to the point that Sharon pursued this course and Yasser Arafat died, the Bush administration, I think justifiably, was criticized for basically doing nothing, washing its hands of the Middle East process. So they need to do what they can to help Sharon get from here to there. Separately, they need, and I think we saw a little bit of that with Bush's statement, they need to put pressure on Sharon. Not too much pressure, but some pressure, because I think Daoud makes a good point. I mean, one real sore point, and I think with good reason with the Palestinians, is the settlements. I mean, administration after administration in the United States has criticized the settlements, condemned them, said they shouldn't happen, and they keep being built. And it's a very powerful symbol to Palestinians that says to them, the Israelis, the Israeli government, even governments that are pursuing peace plans, are not entirely serious about the end result.
Amitai Etzioni, what's your sense of how things will change if the pullout from Gaza goes forward as planned?
Well, these are the points both made a moment ago. I very much agree. There should be more steps to encourage the peace process. Gaza withdrawal is the number one which we can see in the near future. I think there should be negotiations. I think there should be more prisoners released. By the way, it's not completely accurate. Nothing happened, but some roadblocks have been removed, but not enough. I very much agree to that. Unfortunately, both sides, in what is, I think, a very poor negotiation posture, belittling what the other side does. So 400 prisoners are being released. The Palestinians said, there's nothing, give me more. We want to determine who. They remove some roadblocks. They say, we need more roadblocks. That's what people do in kind of labor management negotiation. But it's a tactic which doesn't remove us to tension reduction, because you belittle about the withdrawal from Gaza, which is a major step. You mentioned correctly, he endangers his political career. He's endangering his life. I mean, there are very serious threats on Sharon's life. And so he really kind of biting the bullet here. Well, the Palestinians say this is just a bluff to get us off the roadmap. He's going to move all these people to the West Bank. By the way, it's not true. And so I wish we could now begin to acknowledge the other side's contribution while asking for more. That, I think, is what we need to see next.
Daoud Kutab, will there be a sense of, if the Gaza pullout goes through, that will have accomplished something?
I think yes. I think if the Gaza pullout is carried out without a lot of interruptions, and if it is a genuine pullout, in other words, it includes the border points and it allows for movement between Gaza and the West Bank, I think that would be a fabulous gift for all of us. I'm worried still. I mean, we have not heard any definitive statement that the borders will be given up. The Israelis seem to be hesitating on that issue. It's not clear what kind of a shape the areas the Israelis will withdraw from. The settlements would be in what kind of shape. So there's a few problems, but yes, I think in the larger picture, permanent Israeli reversal of the settlement process in Gaza could be a good sign if it doesn't, if it's not paralleled with and equal, if you will, digging their feet in West Bank settlements and in Jerusalem, which it seems to have happened. The breakup between the West Bank and East Jerusalem is getting worse and worse.
Now, one of the issues that was on the table